Let us start. In the last class, we were discussing unit cells that defines different crystal system. So to define any unit cell, you require 6 lattice parameters. 3 of them are defining the corresponding length of the unit cells along the x, y, and z direction. We call them lattice parameter A, B, and C respectively. And you require 3 other angles to complete the 6 parameter notation of a unit cell. And the angles are being defined as alpha, beta, and gamma. Hence, to represent any unit cell, you require 3 dimensions A, B, C, and 3 angles alpha, beta, and gamma. Based on the allowed possible values of these 6 lattice parameters, we have 7 different crystal systems with which you can maintain the periodicity of the lattice in 3 dimensions. They were arranged in the order of their symmetry, starting from the most symmetric crystal system to the least symmetric crystal system. So in that order, we have cubic at the top, where the relationship was A equal to B equal to C, and all the angles were 90. Following this, we have hexagonal, where 2 of the dimensions were equal, A equal to B, but not equal to C. The angles were fixed. Out of the 3, alpha and beta is 90 and gamma is 120. Third system was tetragonal. Tetragonal is also having the same axial relationship, that is A equal to B but not equal to C, while all the 3 angles are 90. The fourth crystal system was trigonal. It is also called rhombohedral, where dimensions are equal, angles are equal, but not equal to 90. Following this, you have orthorhombic, where dimensions were unequal, that is A equal to not equal to A is not equal to B is not equal to C, while the angles were constant and equal to 90. The sixth system was monoclinic, where dimensions were unequal. 2 of the angles are equal and 90, but the third angle is different from 90 degree. And last one was triclinic, where neither the dimensions nor the angles are equal, and the angles were not 90 as well. None of the angles were 90. So these were the 7 possible geometries by which you can maintain the periodicity of lattice in 3D. Then we were classifying the unit cells into 2 categories. The first category we had discussed in the last class. It was the primitive unit cell. Primitive unit cell is the one which has atoms occupying the corners of the geometry. So if I compute the total number of lattice points belonging to this particular unit cell, the number of lattice points always come out to be equal to 1. Why? Because every corner contributes only 1/8 to the unit cell, and in this case there were 8 corners, everyone is contributing 1/8, so total is 8 into 1/8, which is giving you 1 lattice point per unit cell. Wherever your unit cell contains only 1 lattice point, the unit cell is referred as the primitive unit cell. All primitive unit cells are being referred as simple. So if it is a cubic unit cell, we will call it simple cubic. If it is tetragonal unit cell, we will call it simple tetragonal, and so on and so forth. Now, coming to the second case, where you have atoms not only occupying the corners but also occupying some of the unoccupied space within the unit cell. One of the possibility where an atom can occupy an empty space within the unit cell is its center. So if you have a unit cell where atoms occupies the corners of the unit cell as well as the center of the unit cell, that kind of unit cell is being referred as the body-centered unit cell. Why the name body-centered? Because you have an extra lattice atom which is sitting at the center of the body of the unit cell. If you compute the effective number of lattice points which the body-centered unit cell possesses, all corner atoms contributing 1/8. So 8 corners again lead you to 1 lattice point. So contribution of the corners is equal to 1 lattice point, while the center is completely within the unit cell. So it makes the contribution, sorry for that, it makes the total contribution of the lattice parameter to be equal to 2. One lattice point comes from the center, while the other lattice point comes from the corner of the unit cell. So this is the unit cell which possesses lattice points which is more than 1, and hence it is called a non-primitive unit cell. You have to remember that generally the type of atom which sits at the corner side and the type of atom which sits at the center may be different, and that is why in the top rightmost image the corner atoms are shown in a brown color, while the central atom is shown as the green color atom. So they belongs to two different atom types. Now coming to the next type of non-primitive unit cell, which is called face-centered unit cell. As the name suggests, in face-centered unit cell, your lattice points not only lies at the corner sides but also lies at the center of every face. So if you know that if I have a cubic geometry, then I have 6 faces and each center of that face is being occupied by one lattice point. So I have 8 corners occupied by a lattice point and 6 center of the faces also occupied by the lattice point. And if you compute the effective contribution of them, corners contribute 1/8 and 8 of them. So again, the total contribution of the corner is equal to 1 lattice point, while every face of a cube is being shared between 2 adjacent unit cells. This is something like if I have a wall, that wall belongs to 2 adjacent rooms. So the face lattice point's contribution to the given unit cell will be only half of the total. So every face centered lattice point contributes 1/2. And how many faces we have? We have 6 faces. So there are 6 lattice points, each contributing half. So 6 into half makes 3, and 1 was coming from the corner. So your total is now 4. This is also a non-primitive unit cell, where the effective number of lattice points making the face-centered unit cell is equal to 4. The third type of non-primitive unit cell is called end-centered. Couple of books also refer this as the base center. In this kind of unit cell, you have lattice points at the corners as well as on any two opposite faces. You remember we have total 6 faces. So out of those 6, any two opposite faces are being occupied, then it makes an end-centered non-primitive unit cell. If you try to compute the effective number of lattice points in this, again from corner it is 1 by 8 into 8, so 1, and there are 2 face-centered lattice points, each contributing half. So 1 half plus 1 half makes 1. So total is 1 from the corner and another 1 from the face. Your effective number of lattice points making the end-centered unit cell is equal to 2. Any doubt up to this point? Okay, I guess no. So in summary, what we have is a primitive unit cell, which is simple, and 3 non-primitive unit cell called face-centered, body-centered, and end-centered. So accordingly, now within the 7 crystal system, if I look at the possibility of a primitive and the non-primitive unit cell, I get certain subcategories within a given crystal system. For example, for a cubic crystal system, my unit cell could be primitive, that is simple, or my unit cell could be body-centered, or my unit cell can be face-centered. There is no end-centered geometry possible here. I will come back to that question, why there is no end-centered cubic geometry of a unit cell. But one crystal system, which is cubic, now has 3 possible configurations, namely simple, body-centered, and face-centered. Likewise, for hexagonal, I have only one possible symmetry, which is simple, or you can say the primitive unit cell. For tetragonal, there are 2 possibilities. One is simple, another one is body-centered. And likewise, for rhombohedral, it's only simple. For orthorhombic, all the 4 possibilities are there, which is simple, end-centered, body-centered, and face-centered. For monoclinic, only the primitive, which is simple, and end-centered is a possible unit cell. And for triclinic, only the simple unit cell is possible. So if I count the total, what I can see is for cubic there is 3, hexagonal 1, so 3 plus 1 4, tetragonal 2, so 4 plus 2 6, rhombohedral 1, 6 plus 1 7, orthorhombic 4, 7 plus 4 makes 11, monoclinic 2, 11 plus 2 is 13, and triclinic is 1, so total is now 14. This 7 crystal systems has total 14 different possible unit cell configurations. These 14 different configurations are called brevis lattices. From the name of the discoverer, it is being named as 14 brevis lattices. So overall, solid in a crystalline form can possess from one of the 7 crystal classes or from one of the 14 brevis lattice types. You might have a question in your mind that in certain crystal type, there is a specific brevis lattice present, and in certain other unit cell type, couple of brevis lattices are missing. For example, if you look here on this slide, for rhombohedral, we have only the primitive unit cell possible, which is simple, while for orthorhombic, all the 4 types of unit cells are possible. So question is, why it is like this? In one particular crystal system, there may be all the 4 possible crystal brevis lattice types are present, while in some other crystal system, there may be only 1 or maybe 2 are possible. So there are 2 possible reasons for this. The first reason is you can define your lattice only if the periodicity is maintained. This is the thumb rule. So if a given geometry with a particular brevis lattice, for example, if I consider triclinic and try to make a face-centered triclinic or a body-centered triclinic, I will not be able to maintain the periodicity of lattice in 3D. So those kind of non-primitive unit cells are not allowed. That is one of the reasons. The second one is there is a possibility that in certain brevis lattices, you can maintain the periodicity, but still it is not listed here. I will quote one example, and with that, it will be more clear to you that even if the lattice can maintain the periodicity in 3D, but still it could be missing in the list here. The reason being, if you have 2 different brevis lattices making the same geometry, then we will consider only one particular geometry which possesses fewer number of lattice point. What I am saying is, it will be clear to you if you look at this particular picture. Look at the picture which is shown on the left hand side. You can easily make it out. These are 2 adjacent unit cells, and unit cells are such that there are corner atoms and atoms on 2 opposite faces. So it is like end-centered unit cell. And if you now come to the right-hand diagram, it is the same diagram. The only difference is the interconnection that we have made is slightly different from the one that is being shown on the left-hand side. This is precisely the identical image. All the solid lines are now being made as the dashed line. So if you follow the dashed line, it is precisely the same left-hand image. What you can see in the middle of the right-hand image is we have connected the face atoms of the 2 adjacent unit cells to each other, as well as to one of the corner atoms. So if you create an interconnection like this and focus only on the center region, you can tell me what kind of unit cell you are mimicking in the middle. The same unit cell is now mimicking as if it is a tetragonal unit cell. And what kind of tetragonal unit cell it is? It has atoms only at its corner side. That means it's a primitive unit cell. So it's a simple tetragonal unit cell. What is my point? My point is the same image on the left, which was look like an end-centered unit cell, can also be represented as the right hand image, which is a simple tetragonal unit cell. So now if I ask you to count the number of lattice which these two different unit cell type possess, you can tell me which one has fewer number of unit cells, lattice points within the unit cell. For example, if we compute first for the left hand image, which is end centered, your total number of effective lattice points is 1 by 8 into 8 from the corner, which makes 1, and 1/2 from two opposite faces. So total in one unit cell is 1 plus 1, which is equal to 2. While for the image on the right, it's a primitive unit cell, simple. So only corners contribute 1 by 8 into 8. The effective contribution is coming out to be equal to 1. And in this case, now if I compare the two, the image on the left has 2 lattice points per unit cell, while the image on the right has only 1 lattice point per unit cell. Whenever this is the situation where two different geometries represents the same thing, we will consider only one geometry as our Brebis lattice, which possesses fewer number of lattice points. And now it is clear to you why in the list of Brebis lattices for a cubic geometry, the fourth one, which is end-centered cubic, is missing because it is same as the simple tetragon. And that is why we have listed it as the simple tetragonal unit cell and not the end-centered cubic unit cell. So likewise, wherever there are two different geometries makes an identical system, we will consider only that one as the Brebis lattice, which contains fewer number of lattice points. So here is the summary. We have one primitive unit cell, which is simple, and 3 non-primitive unit cell, namely face-centered, body-centered, and end-centered. So there are 4 possible unit cell types. We have 7 possible crystal systems. So overall, 7 into 4, there is 28 different possibilities. Out of that 28, only 14 Brebis lattices exist because the remaining ones either represent the other simpler geometry with fewer number of lattice points, or they do not maintain periodicity of the lattice in 3D. So for either of these two reasons, we have only 14 different Brebis lattices belonging to 7 crystal class. Okay, so now we do one more exercise where we will going to compute two important parameters for the primitive and the non-primitive lattice. One is the effective number of atoms, and the another concept which we will frequently refer to is number of nearest neighbors. This quantity, number of nearest neighbors, in technical term is called the coordination number of the unit cell or Brebis lattice. So if somebody says coordination number, it is not something which is very hi-fi. It simply represents how many adjacent neighbor a given lattice point has. Okay, so let's start with the simple cubic symmetry. On the topmost image, I have shown a simple cubic symmetry with lattice point at every corner, and we had practiced this. There are 8 lattice, each contributing only 1 by 8. So your total effective contribution is 8 into 1 by 8, which is making 1 unit cell per unit cell. And if each of this lattice point is being occupied by real atom, then it becomes effective number of atoms to be 1 atom per unit cell. So if it is geometry, we will call it lattice point. If it is a real crystal, then instead of lattice point, it will be an atom. Now, how many number of nearest neighbors you have in a simple cubic crystal? If you try to answer this by looking at the topmost image, it will become complicated. So to describe the number of nearest neighbor, what we do is, instead of using the topmost image, we will use the bottom right corner image. What you can see here is, instead of one cube, we have arranged 8 cubes, identical one, shown in the top left image, and put them adjacent to each other. So if you start arranging the cubes, you can arrange 4 cubes at the base and another 4 will go on the top of that. So you can see there are 8 cubes, 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom, making this lower right corner image. With this image, it is easy to visualize the number of nearest neighbors. Now, for the sake of simplicity, I have used different colors for marking the atoms. In general, for a simple cubic lattice, the atoms are all identical, but I want you to focus on certain atoms. That is why I have used different color notations. Now focus on the middle, which is marked with a blue color lattice point. And now start looking along X, Y, and Z. You see at equal distance, you find a yellow color atom. So if I look on the right, I see one yellow color atom. If I look on the left, there is another one. If I look on the front, there is another yellow one. If I look on the back, there is another yellow one. On the top, there is one yellow. On the bottom, there is also one yellow lattice point. So vis-a-vis to blue, you can see there are 6 yellow dots at equal distance. And this defines the number of neighbors, or say coordination number, for a simple cubic unit cell. So if somebody asks what is the coordination number for the simple cubic unit cell, it is equal to 6. Now if you do the same exercise for any other lattice point, you will find that corresponding to every lattice point, there are 6 such neighbors which is lying or say surrounding that particular lattice point. You try to do it by yourself, you will see that every lattice point has 6 neighbors surrounding it at equal distance. Remember, you have to consider only those neighbors which are at nearest possible equidistance. Otherwise, there are infinite number of lattice points or infinite number of atoms making the solid. You are not considering all of them. You are considering only those lattice points which are equidistance and nearest to the given lattice point. And that defines its coordination number. There is another important physical quantity which we will keep referring for different unit cell types, is called atomic packing fraction. In general, we will call it APF. APF is being defined as fraction of the volume occupied by the atoms of the unit cell. So you can define APF as volume of the unit cells, volume of the atoms within the unit cell, to the total volume of the unit cell. So it's a ratio of two volumes, volume of the atoms within the unit cell to the total volume of the unit cell. Interestingly, what you will see is this quantity APF, which is basically a measure of how dense your solid is, depends only on the crystal structure. That means your APF will change whenever I change the crystal system. For cubic, it is different. For tetragonal, it will be different. For hexagonal, it will be different. And within the crystal class, for body centered and face centered, it will be different. So it depends only on the crystal structure. It is a measure of how close the atoms are packed. Higher is the APF value, that means you have more densely packed crystal structure. And smaller is the value of APF, that means your unit cell is loosely packed. While deriving the APF, we hypothesized that in your unit cell, your atoms behaves as if they are hard spheres. Remember, real atoms are not hard spheres, but in all mathematical models, we always assume atoms to be like hard spheres, and its radius we define as the r. And what you will see is your APF is also independent of the atomic radius. What does that mean? If I have two different materials making the same unit cell, for example, I have an FCC unit cell of iron and I have an FCC unit cell of copper. Now, how iron is different from copper? Their atomic radiuses will be different. But still, if you compute the APF for the simple cubic unit cell of iron and simple cubic unit cell of copper, it is precisely be the same. Why? Because it is independent of the radius of the atom which is making that particular unit cell. So interesting thing. What we have is this APF only depends on crystal structure and it is independent from the actual material making that unit cell. Whether it's copper or iron doesn't matter. Okay, so now we move to the non-primitive unit cell, which is face-centered cubic unit cell. Many metals belongs to this unit cell type. For example, aluminum, silver, copper, gold, lead, all of them makes their crystal in this unit cell type. And you know how the non-primitive unit cell looks like, which is shown as schematic in the leftmost image, where lattice point is at the corner as well as at the center of each face. You can also represent the same geometry which is shown as the lower rightmost corner, where only the cross-sectional view is shown. What you can see is if I look along the face diagonal and compute the total radius making the face diagonal, I can see one full radius of the corner, another full radius of the corner, and the central face atom belongs entirely to its radius. So if I compute the total radius, it is r of the corner atom, 2r of the face atom, and another r of the corner atom. So total length of the face diagonal is r plus 2r plus r. It is coming out for the out to be 4r. So if I use the simple geometry where each sides are a and a, I can make a correlation between the radius and the lattice parameter a for the face centered unit cell. So if I use the simple Pythagoras geometry, my expression becomes a square, which is side, plus a square, which is another side, equal to 4r whole square. So if I simplify this, I find a correlation for face-centered unit cell is a is equal to 2 root 2 r. You have to remember this. For the face-centered unit cell, the correlation between the radius and the lattice parameter is a equal to 2 under root 2 r. We will frequently require this in solving the numerical problems. So now we compute the total number of atoms in the unit cell. This is easy. 1/8 and into 8 from the corner, so it contributes 1, and face 6 of them, each contributing half, so 6 into half, that makes out to be 3. So 1 plus 3 makes you total 4 atoms per unit cell. We had frequently did this exercise previously. So now if I compute the APF, that is the ratio of the volume of the atoms to the volume of the unit cell, we can compute this quantity for the face-centered unit cell. First, I define the volume of the atoms. You know, atoms are sphere, so the volume is 4 by 3 pi r cube. And for the FCC, I have 4 atoms, so 4 into 4 by 3 pi r cube. And if I substitute the r value in terms of A, which is 2 under root 2 r, my volume of the unit cell will come out to be A cube equal to 2 under root 2 r cube is equal to 16 root 2 r cube. And now if I define APF, which is volume of atoms to the volume of unit cell, the quantity, if I substitute and simplify, it comes out to be 0.74. Interesting fact is, APF for the face-centered unit cell is independent of the value of R or A. It is just a numerical number, which is 0.74. It means 74% of the total volume of the unit cell is occupied. Amongst all crystal unit cell types, this is the highest packing efficiency. Okay, I think we are running out of time, so we will stop here. If you have any questions or queries, you just let me know about them. I will try to address those queries in our next class. There is a question for the coordination number of an n-centered cubic structure. In the next class, we will going to do the exercise where we will compute the coordination number for all the different non-primitive unit cells. So we will come back to this question in our next class. So now, for the time being, I am closing. If you have any doubts, you can raise them. I will be happy to answer them in tomorrow's class. So we are closing now.